To the topics with Marathon. Let me go back over here, switch over to the other screen. All right, so if you guys are unaware, so Bungie has officially lifted the NDA, at least for the closed alpha, on Marathon. And a lot of people are talking about this because obviously they're wondering on what information is probably going to be coming out from this. But we have a headline from Insider Gaming. Bungie gives major update on Marathon closed alpha. They've published a major update on what players can expect with the upcoming closed alpha for Marathon. The studio has given details on what type of feedback they are looking for, along with the decision to lift the NDA that they had in place for those who took part in the tests. They said the following: as developers, we believe community feedback and dialogue is essential to make the best version of Marathon. Bungie said in a post on social media, up until now, this feedback has come from closed playtest sessions. In the spirit of building towards that future, we've decided to remove the NDA from our closed alpha test. Everyone can share their thoughts, feedback, and footage, including streaming, starting on April 23rd. So no NDA, no restrictions, but it makes me curious as to what about the people that might say something negative. Now, here's the thing, though. If you were invited to the closed alpha, chances are you're probably not going to be someone who's going to be very honest about what you experienced, right? So I find this to be a very interesting move. This is not something that a company normally does, especially a company that is currently being compared to Concord. It's a little bit interesting of a strategic move from them to allow the NDA to be lifted. I'm actually very curious what some of you guys might think about why they might be releasing the NDA so early, considering this is not something they normally do. Bungie says this upcoming alpha is a true closed technical test of Marathon, and to add clarity, the developer says that it means players will be playing an incomplete version of the game. The game will not include finalized visuals and graphics, polished UI, all runner, all zones, endgame content, and more. So it's basically almost nothing. It's almost nothing. All you're going to be able to do is a couple of multiplayer matches with like one or two heroes, and that's basically it. With that being said, they're looking for specific feedback on the game, including the following: weapons and gunplay, maps and survival gameplay, runners including kits and build crafting, early game progression including factions, contracts, and faction upgrades, PvP engagements against other runners, PvE engagements against AI combatants. So basically you're looking for feedback on the fucking game. Like, this is the whole game. What are you talking about? Like, obviously, this is what you're going to want feedback on. I don't feel like you're being very specific here. Keeping an open dialogue is a crucial part of alpha and beyond. Bungie said, we've been tracking several topics since reveal, and we're looking forward to seeing and hearing your feedback as you play alpha. After the closed alpha test ends, we'll be summarizing the major things we heard, our thoughts, and what comes next. I wonder if this is just their way of trying to get ahead of the PR like storm. Because here's the problem with Concord. Concord didn't listen to anybody, right? Firewalk Studios listened to absolutely nobody. People were trying to tell them, hey, this looks terrible. This plays like garbage. This is not very good design. This is not going to hit well with, real players. And they ignored everybody. They called it white noise. So maybe Bungie is trying to do the opposite. Not that they're actually trying to listen, but they're trying to give the perception that they're listening. Perhaps that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to give the perception that they're totally not going to be like Concord, and they're going to listen to their gamers, which, again, I don't believe it, but maybe that's what they're trying to do here. Because otherwise, why would you release the NDA? Almost nobody does that for alpha footage. Almost nobody. So I find it to be a very interesting move that is being made by them, and I wonder if it's really going to make anything, like an impact, because people have their thoughts about this game. The game already, look, man, people don't like the way the game looks. I got a perfect example for you. All right, here we got a clip from Asmin Gold
in the game.
All right, Asmin Gold is getting a lot of hate for this clip regarding Marathon. The reason why is because he's talking about the design of the characters, and he's talking about what you should and should not do when it comes to video games that are targeting a male audience, right? So the ironic thing is that the Marathon Bulletin page, or the actual Gold account, Marathon updates, or whatever the case may be, they sent out this clip to complain about this. What did they say? They said, Asmin Gold thinks Marathon needs to make sure that all the female characters in the game are fuckable because it's a shooter game primarily made for men. This is the game Marathon. This is the Twitter account Marathon Intel, an actual Gold verified account, which is hilarious, by the way. I am not blocked from this, ironically. So let's see what Asmin Gold said about this, and maybe we could get a little bit of a better idea. Here we go.
I think that pretty much every single circumstance, it's always a bad idea to make characters that are not conventionally attractive. Because this is, again, this is a shooter game, and shooter games are going to be primarily played by men. So if you're making a shooter game that's primarily made for men, then you should make sure that all of the female characters in the game are fuckable. And I know this might sound crazy to say, but I'm just going to say it. That's what you should do. That's what you should do, because that's what people want to do. That's what girls will cosplay. Girls don't want to cosplay ugly, weird-looking, androgynous, creepy characters. And all of that, like, think about how much advertising Marvel Rivals gets because of how many girls try to cosplay the characters.
So that last line is what I agree with wholeheartedly. And here's the thing that the modern audience either doesn't realize or doesn't want to admit to. But the simple fact is that women partake in sexy female characters as much, if not maybe more, than the men do. Because women go out of their way to take the personality of some of their favorite characters and cosplay them online or at conventions or at cons, whatever the case may be. They do this all the time. You think women want to run around cosplaying as the 300-pound, 300-pound androgynous fat bitch? No, of course not. Of course not. How many fucking cosplayers, how many female cosplayers were playing Abby from The Last of Us? Let's be fucking real. How many female cosplayers were cosplaying as Abby from The Last of Us? Seriously. How many? A couple? And they were probably dudes? How many? Almost zero, right? Almost nobody is cosplaying as fucking Abby from The Last of Us. But how many women are cosplaying as their favorite anime characters? How many women are cosplaying as their favorite Marvel Rivals character? How many women are cosplaying as like 2B from Nier Automata? Or like how many women were cosplaying as Eve from Stellar Blade? Bro, like that is actually a great point from Asmin Gold. The simple fact is that women partake in this shit just as much as men, if not slightly more, when we're talking about from a social media standpoint. Now, what he first said was that all the characters should be like fuckable or whatever. Like for me, I can understand the level of attraction or like making attractive characters. I get that. I don't think they have to get you to the point where you need to whip your dick out and want to fuck them. But I think the general sentiment is that nobody wants to play ugly characters. It doesn't mean that you want to just fuck every single character there is, but flat out, nobody wants to play ugly characters. Women either. Women don't want to play ugly characters. You guys saw the meltdown that happened with Pokemon Go when the fucking update hit the United States and every female logged into their account and they filmed themselves fucking melting down because their characters became trans. They lost their shit. It's because women want to play as cute, sometimes sexy characters. That's what they want to do. They don't want to fucking play as Abby. And the ones that want to play as Abby are dudes wearing dresses anyway. Most of the time. So he's absolutely right. You know, he's absolutely right. Granted, a little bit more extreme in his delivery, but he's absolutely right. So, again, the characters it doesn't have to be a porn game for it to succeed. But the simple fact is that the characters have to be conventionally attractive. And the majority of the United States or the Western society has agreed on what is conventionally attractive. And it's not what these fucking losers are trying to push. Flat out. Flat out. It's not what these psychos are trying to push, which is why they push it. which is why you have these developers going on podcasts and saying the following. They're like, yeah, we know what gamers want, so we need to sneak in what they don't want in order to help them try to get used to what they may not have liked, or maybe, you know, explore new things that they generally would not go looking for. These people have admitted to this. They've went on, what's that podcast? I forgot what the name of that podcast is. That has that super shill Greg Miller or whatever his name is. What the fuck is the name of that podcast? They had a developer go on there and openly admit that they sneak in ideology in the hopes that it opens up people's eyes to what they want people to be looking at. And most of that has to do with, like, the Puto Brothers. Yeah. The Puto Brothers. Kind of funny. Yeah. Kind of funny. Exactly. Thank you, guys. Thank you. So Kind of Funny had somebody, a developer or someone, go on their podcast and admit this. They admitted this. Like, they push this purposefully. So now here's the thing. Is this game going to fail? Probably not. Right? Probably not. Because, again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. This game is going to have an internal fan base that is strictly built off of Bungie fanboys. The question is whether or not those Bungie fanboys are going to stick around, and whether or not Bungie is going to be able to create a good enough experience that is going to garner good word of mouth outside of the fanboys that can spread far and wide and make them successful enough, essentially. But the Bungie fanboys are 100% going to support this game. 100%. The biggest deterrent to this game is not going to be any, like, wokeness or whatever. I don't even think there's any wokeness in this game. I guess you could say there's wokeness in the design of the characters because they're all fucking weird and ugly. But aside from, like, actual real, and I don't see anything. It's just a really uninspired, boring looking game. It's an ugly looking game to a lot of people. That's just what it is. But I don't think it's going to be another Concord. Again, I keep telling people this. I know a lot of people say it on Twitter and they're like, oh, it's Concord 2.0. I don't think it's going to be another Concord. I don't. I think this is two totally different scenarios. They might have a couple of similarities here and there, but it's not. I don't really think it's going to be another Concord. But it 100% is going to be another soulless fucking shooter. Exactly. It looks all very generic. That's really what it is. So I guess we'll see what happens with Marathon. But again, I do find it very interesting. They are removing the NDA. I find that to be very interesting. That is a interesting strategy for a company that would otherwise be very secretive over these particular video games. So Carl says, what if one of the people working on the game is an ex-developer of Concord? Doesn't matter. You got one person on a team of like hundreds. Like, what does that matter? You know what I mean? Like, if you had, let's say, if you had the entirety of Firewalk Studios moved over to Bungie, then that's something else. You know what I mean? That would be more of the conversation. But if you got one psychopath that was moved over from Firewalk to go to work at Bungie, I mean, I hate to break it to you, most of Bungie already has psychopaths working there. Like most of Bungie, even if they had a few people move over from Firewalk Studios, it doesn't matter. The people that are there are psychopaths already anyway. So it does not matter at all. Like you're just adding one or two psychopaths to another. You know? That's all it basically is. Have you looked at Bungie's website? Have you looked at what they stand for? Have you looked at, like, you know, I don't mean just you, Carl. I mean, like, in general, people, like, I'm sure they have. But, like, it's not anything that's not known already at this point. It's not shocking. It's not anything like that. I do want to say one thing, though. I find it interesting that they are investing in this. I find it interesting that Sony is actually potentially investing in this, because it makes you wonder, man, like, did you not learn anything from Concord? Did you not learn? Like, why would your next investment be a multiplayer extraction shooter after your multiplayer team shooter failed? You know what I mean? Like, you lost all this money, and then you're gonna invest in basically another version in a similar genre. Like, why would you do that? That's kind of stupid, you know? And then on top of that, too, I mean, you're talking about a company that had to take one of the biggest L's in gaming history. Seriously. I mean, Concord wasn't the biggest financial failure, but it damn near was. But it definitely was one of the biggest L's ever taken in gaming. Like, literally. Ever. to close a video game in 10 days, a massive video game like that had all this promised content, all this promised story content, the vignettes, all that stuff. The fucking, like, they had everything promised. They're like, oh, we got podcast shows ready to go. We got all these videos we're gonna put on the gone. All of it gone. And I'm sure it's gonna be the same thing with Marathon, but they're definitely gonna be in a better position for sure. Like Marathon's gonna be in a better position because of the Bungie name. That's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be in a better position than the Bungie name. So it's gonna definitely have a more successful launch. I gotta imagine. I'm more curious of how it's going to sustain itself. That's what I'm curious about. I'm also curious about the entry fee. I wonder how much they're gonna charge. What are we thinking they're gonna charge, by the way? Are we thinking they're gonna charge what, like $40? $50? They said they're not charging full price. It's probably gonna be 40. Rodoka says 50. Okay, maybe 50. You know what? Maybe it will be 50. Maybe it will be 50, and the only reason why I say 50, 40 wasn't announced. No, nothing, to my knowledge, nothing was announced. I'm going to say maybe it'll be 50, because if they are going to be raising the prices of video games soon, I got to imagine that what would have been 40 is now going to be 50. Like, does that make sense? So I feel like maybe it'll be 50. Or maybe it'll be 70, because full price games by the time this comes out are going to be 100. You know what I mean? Like you never know these days. These people, like, they're looking for any reason to raise the fucking price. So you never know. GTA can come out and they'll be like, yep, fuck it. $70 is the new cheap. You know, you never know. But no, seriously, it's probably going to be $50. $50 with a season pass, battle pass, whatever. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yep. Yeah, Rodoka is actually pretty spot on. $50 for base game. Deluxe would be 70. I think that's fair. That's fairly accurate. That's fairly accurate. Does anybody agree with that? I think that's pretty fair to say. So I don't know. We'll see. But overall, like I said, man, this game is nowhere near Concord. Concord's situation is totally different, man. Totally different. And on top of that, too, you guys got to remember that Concord was worked on outside of Sony for years before Sony eventually obviously picked it up and invested their own couple $100 million into it. But from what we understand from the leaks that came out, a lot of the money that was invested by Sony was in the last 2 years of development, because Firewalk Studios didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Firewalk Studios spent years upon years, 6 years plus, and they had nothing to show for it. They didn't even have an alpha build. You know what I mean? So who knows? Who knows what's going to go down?